Hello, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to Circle of Wisdom. My name is Christopher Witecki, and I am joined here by Christopher Master OneFeather. Hello, Master OneFeather. How are you?
I am doing marvelously. It has been it's been an interesting period here. I know that a lot of other Pisces that I communicate with are very much aware of the fact that things are amping up, and if the rest of you signs out there aren't already feeling it, there is in in reference to Darwin's book, there is a buildup of
Welcome
electrical
to Circle of Wisdom.
energy. So something is getting ready to happen. The bolt of lightning is about to be released, I do believe.
I agree. I think the bolt of lightning is about to be released. In fact, let's take a look real quick at the planets. I'll do a screen share here. This is from astro.com, my favorite astrology site. The sun actually is shifting to step 25 here in about an hour and a half, and that's going to cloud everything over. And the moon is deep in Cancer, which is, I think, where we are deeply in our emotions too. But to me, the magic is this, actually. Jupiter at step 13 in Leo. 13 is an electric Aquarius number. When it hits 13, this expansion for love, it hits a wall. So we've hit a wall. We've all been kind of growing. There's been a lot of luck since Jupiter went to Leo, a lot of fast growth, a lot of fast change, people burning through love stories really quickly, and everyone's kind of hit a glass ceiling. And I predict that the first thing we're feeling is what's on the other side of that love yourself wall. But it's the sun and Virgo too. it's
yeah, I think we also have to pay attention to what's going on with good old Neptune, because Neptune right now is very much a planet that is starting to awaken. I think that it's spent the first 4 years in Pisces getting its bearings, and now it's ready to come online. And as soon as it directs, I think that there's going to be a stampede in a lot of new directions that people simply are not, tapped into yet.
Are you making excuses for Pisces being no good for the first 5 degrees?
No, not really.
I'm just kidding.
I do have a couple of kids that are, my friends' kids, things like that. I mean, I'm kind of the father of nations here, for Christ's sake. I've got like 10 billion kids. You're one of my kids. But anyway,
you're a Mongolian.
Yes. But nonetheless, the ones who are in that latter few degrees of Aquarius and the first few degrees of Pisces have really gone through a huge period of a need for soul searching. One of the kids that I'm kind of referencing here peripherally has had a serious addiction with heroin going on, has fathered 3 children. One of them was a crack baby or a heroin baby. The other 2, thank God for the souls that would have been inhabiting those bodies, they did do an abortion. But, I think that early stage of Pisces is so dreamy and so nebulous and so much like the deeper realms of the unconscious being brought to the surface, that people who are living under that vibration have had World War III going on. And hopefully now when Pisces goes direct, when Neptune goes direct, we're going to see things finally level out a little bit.
Interesting you say that. Well, the last time Neptune was in this nebulous Pisces, we were building up to the Civil War, and there was an announcement that gold had been discovered in California.
Right, the gold rush.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think, to put it in your terms, people are kind of lost in the gold rush right now. Just the in whatever fevers of Neptune and Pisces, such as a heroin addiction or whatever can get you lost in your own twilight zone. I think you're right, though. Once Neptune goes direct, I think we're going to see the world move forward. And I actually have been recording my Megascope monthlies and forecasting up until October 31st. So I've been in my head, I got all the planets until October 31st, and I have to say that in the coming 6 weeks, it looks like it's a real doozy when it comes to really determining what's fair with the Sun in Libra. So people going, okay, what's really fair? And then when the sun moves into Scorpio, people laying down the law, because this is the final lap of Saturn in Scorpio, the final drawing of where people's emotional boundaries are. And ironically, Saturn goes into Sagittarius on Christmas Eve.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the strangest present from God we've had in a long time. So I think we are definitely preparing for something. Let's say hi to our guests. We have Joel and we have Dowen. Sorry.
Dwayne.
Dwayne, I'm so sorry. I tried very hard.
All good. I get all kinds of things.
I will do it correctly by the end of this show. Joel, tell us where you're from and what you do on Earth with your time.
I live in Canada near the Toronto area, and this time that I've been spending these last few months has really been cultivating myself, it seems, going through redefining myself. I feel like 3 years ago when I started this journey for myself, I left my old life behind completely, it seems, and I feel like I'm doing that again, but I feel like I have no idea where it's going. And actually, watching the show with you guys last week, when you and both of you, Christophers, were having a little debate about how it seems like nothing in the world at large is really changing, even though there's all this talk about changing. And I was really taken by that, because that was something that I kind of was struggling with a little bit myself. And how what do I do in this world to kind of see, you know, a better world take form? Even though you see little pockets of it here and there, but by far every institution on this planet still seems to be doing the same old. So I'm trying to find my way in to see how I can bring my share to.
And what's your astrology sign? I have to ask. I'm sorry.
Sun in Cancer.
Sun in Cancer. Okay, cool. And what is it that you do day to day with your time? Where do you find what do you do for, you know, I guess a living? I don't want to say it that way, but
my niches for the last 2 years has been holistic nutrition, iridology, energy medicine, things related to holistic health, and I've also had a growing interest in things relating to occultic kind of stuff, just to pick up little pieces here and there to get an understanding of where humanity came from and where we're at. Specifically, this has brought me into an episode of detaching myself from the system, in terms of the use of the legal name, to being bound through all sorts of things like insurances and courts, fines, all this kind of things. So it's an interesting thing to undergo, because having discovered the bastardization that humanity has been pushed through, with being economic slaves in this day and age, as soon as I discovered about this, I couldn't be a part of it anymore. So I've been having to restructure my life in terms of how to operate without, like, you know, making active use of a social insurance number and all this kind of thing. It really makes it challenging to, you know, step your feet forward in the way that I want to authentically operate in this world, and how to meet those challenges when everyone else is plugged into this matrix that requires you to have one of their keyholes in order to get anything done. So
very interesting.
Figure out how to integrate all of that.
You're in Canada, and so 2 questions real quick for you. In Canada, what is the, I guess, average population with holistic medicine? What is their attitude with holistic medicine, especially when they are getting more medical coverage per populace than we are?
Well, from what I've really seen as I've talked to a lot of people in the States, it seems that Canada is really not that much better off at all. There's this perception, I think, at large that things up in the north are a little bit better than in the States overall, but honestly, I'm not really seeing that, because most people are quite plugged into mainstream medicine and doing things, you know, working their 9 to 5s. When they get sick, they go to a doctor. There's very little about seeing people actually being empowered and taking their own health and their own life into their own hands. So I'm not really seeing a lot of that. What I do see is, as seems to be the case in any area where I talk to people, is there's pockets of people that share some kind of collective consciousness where they understand more of what it is to truly holistically take care of yourself. And so it's really pockets of it. It's not by any means like a huge mainstream, but it is starting to rise up a bit more.
It sounds like exactly how it is here, like this little pockets, not really a conscious web per se. I want to actually go back to a point you made a little earlier when you were talking, which was just this separatist idea. And I was reading this article here on Business Insider, one of my favorite websites, by the way, for new age thinking and news. But it's talking about that Scotland is making a vote to separate from the United Kingdom or not later, and how that's sparking a lot of separatist energy in America. The Texas National Movement, for one. Apparently Alaska has it. I doubt California is organized to separate. We can't even come together. But the point is that, we talked about this last week, Master OneFeather, with Pluto and Capricorn. People are thinking differently, and you're starting to see some of this thinking come to the surface.
That's where I have a slight frustration, because I see in a lot of these circles and pockets, there's a lot of thinking, there's a lot of talking, there's not a lot of doing, and that's the frustrating part. And I'm not calling myself a total hypocrite. I mean, I feel like I want to do more. I'm taking steps and being, as I have taken mentorship from you, Christopher, just being kind to myself and going at a pace that I'm not going to totally freak out. So, yeah. But I am taking those steps to detach myself from things that normally everyone relies on as far as common institutions go, like banks and mortgages and conventional jobs and that sort of thing. So, I make a buck here and there where I can. I'm simplifying my life, learning truly by practice that the more I get rid of, the more I get to know myself. Yeah. So there's so much illusion that people are caught in out there, and I want to be an example that we don't need all this stuff. We can find joy in simplicity and in knowing yourself and having genuine, authentic relationships with other people.
I totally concur. We're with you on that, and that was pretty much the nutshell of our debate last week, right, Master OneFeather? Was the journey is inward.
Yeah, until you actually initiate that search for the true self, until you can identify the true self, I think the whole essence of your life is just found in a state of disorientation. One of the things that I see a lot of are people saying, "Oh, this is spiritual and that is spiritual," and in reality, if it's hinged on an anchorage in physicality, it really isn't spiritual. I mean, the underlying concept may in fact be a thought in the mind of those of us who are creating this reality. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's spiritual. Because if you look at the material world, it's ephemeral. It's always in flux, it's always in change, and ultimately it's always ending. That's what this realm is a realm of endings. I was watching Cloud Atlas the other day, and this is probably the 5th or 6th time for me to go through the movie, because I really get, I like to watch movies and take them apart in layers, and this is a beautiful movie for those of you who are of that same mind, because there are so many different layers in Cloud Atlas. But the underlying realization at the end of the movie was that you had a cast of characters who came back in multiple lifetimes, loving each other, killing each other, yada, yada, yada. But the outcome of every story was the same, death. So, once we really get ourselves entrenched in the idea that I am a physical being and lose that awareness of the reality that, no, you're a spiritual being who is temporarily having a physical experience, I think that we purposely distract ourselves. We get involved in all these crusades, all these causes, all of these adventures, simply to distract us from the reality that we bought a ticket on the Titanic, and at some point the fucking boat's going to go down.
That's dark. All right, well, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I mean, I hear you. The boat's going to go down, but let's go back to the Garden of Eden. if we're in the Garden of Eden and we're not afraid of anything and we're naked and having sex and eating all the fruit we can eat, then wouldn't we put on these productions just for fun? Wouldn't we be like making stuff and doing stuff?
I think that
wouldn't we be playing in the sandbox and building big buildings just for fun? Just for fun.
Well, it's fun in the moment, but again, how many times do you want to die, and in how many ways do you want to die?
Well, we can let's
segue. At the end of the journey, there is an ugly reality, and if you go back and actually experience that release process from previous incarnations, I have a feeling that you'll recognize why it is that you are purposely distracting yourself from looking deeply into that ultimate outcome.
Well, okay, let's talk about that. I believe that when Atlantis was here, we did not die. I don't think we died. We stayed, from what I understand, about 900 years without reincarnating. From what I understand, the Atlanteans wanted to create work and sex slaves, and so the DNA was cut for these work and sex slaves to have death upon them. This limited the value of their life and it didn't allow them to see the scope of their incarnation and kept them in slavery. In my opinion, we're unlocking that. And I myself have, I've enjoyed learning about lots of my lifetimes, and it's not because I'm obsessed about it, except for the fact that I'm so fascinated about me, so to speak. But do you believe we were locked in this death thing? But are you saying then that we start living life as if we're not going to die? Because that's really the approach, isn't it?
Well, no, we don't ignore the elephant standing in the middle of the room. What we have to do is actually confront the elephant in the middle of the room and figure out exactly what it is that the elephant represents for us.
So you just think fear of dying. So we're back to where we were with Christ. It's like, okay, the human race needs to know that there's actually a spirit and that this isn't so real. And then we've created
I think it goes much deeper than that. I think that ultimately, once we have penetrated that veil of identity, we are excited about the potential of recognition of our true identity, which is God in expression. See, right now we're fumbling around with, I've got leukemia, I've got an empty checking account, I've got this flat tire, I've got that flat tire, and really, in our truth, in our ultimate truth, we don't have any of those problems, but because we are committed to a life of separation, so that we are not in that actualized state, we end up having to confront all of these different issues that our ego creates for us to have to confront.
So you're making an argument for religion. You're saying
I'm making an argument for the individual journey.
Well, but how?
Religion isn't.
How do you inspire that without a religion, though? How do you inspire that?
Well, religion
Cloud Atlas.
Religion isn't going to do a thing for you.
I agree.
Other than empty your bank account even further.
Okay, but it's
not about religion, but the institutions of religion, whether it be Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, all of them are libraries.
I agree.
And so we acknowledge the fact that this ancient vision, this ancient comprehension of what life actually is sequestered in those institutions. But unfortunately, like all institutions, when you get 3 or 4 people together, there's usually factions that occur, and then there's a war that goes on, and then everybody's struggling to get the upper hand. And
how does one turn the population towards themselves?
That's not your problem. That's not your problem.
It is if people are dying, and
no, it isn't.
Have we no responsibility to raise a conscience on Earth whatsoever?
We have
sit here and whistle.
We have. Well, let me finish this real fast, and then I'll turn it over to you, Joel. But if you can get your consciousness to that place where you are experiencing a total reunion with your true self, at that contact point, you end up manifesting the Buddha consciousness, the Christ consciousness, however you want to call it. One of the latest examples of that is Paramahansa Yogananda with the Self-Realization Fellowship. The entire idea of self-realization is the whole point of everything man was teaching us. Because until you're developing an inner dialogue with your own higher self, you're just floundering around reading books and, belching and farting in the material world. It really isn't going to do anything. So
Again,
you have to come to quietness. You have to come to peace within yourself.
I agree.
For that portal to open. Joel, go ahead. Give us your thoughts.
I think it's interesting you brought up Yogananda because I was just recently looking into Kriya Yoga, which he is pretty much near the roots of that. I wanted to ask a question in respect to when I was talking earlier about trying to help create a more benevolent and holistic world. Where is that line between, do we just simply try to work on ourselves and develop our connection within our highest aspect of ourselves so that everything we do is the possible highest expression of our truest self? Or is there more of a need to focus on actually doing things for other people or doing things physically out in the world as opposed to I'm going to sit here, meditate, and find my oneness?
No.
He went wandering around convincing people. Jesus wasn't wandering around convincing people. He didn't just sit and meditate.
Jesus wasn't worried about convincing people. He was over and over again repeating the idea of self-realization. And the first step in that direction, according to Jesus, was to be born again. But within that idea, we have that image of birthing yourself into your true identity. That doesn't mean that you're just going to sit on your dead ass and spend 50 hours a week, in a meditative trance. Because when you are acting in union with the unified consciousness, or what we call the God consciousness or whatever, when you are acting in rhythm with that, you will be at the right place at the right time to say the right thing or take the right action. And then you're actually initiating something from the primal level of totality, the primal level of God consciousness. But when you are allowing your ego to go out there and start a crusade, what's going to be the secondary effect of that? Well, you have a jihad. Whether you call it a jihad or not is irrelevant. But in fact, you are off on a tangent. You're off on a tangent to change everybody else's mind to accommodate your belief system.
Well, that's what we do with the United States. We had a group of white forefathers that came together and created this.
This world is rife with that.
I agree.
That's all this world is.
Well,
we're going to pound the truth into each other until we're all dead. And then we're going to sit by and wait for it.
Well, I guess so. Perhaps, maybe. Every now and then you have the chance to change things. And that's the point. There are a bunch of groups right now who are saying, I might want to separate. I want to separate. I don't want to be a part of this anymore. So that's really uniting along new ideas, I think. But my point is this: it's like, as a person who is sitting here, what's my role? And that's what Joel, I think, is asking too. That's what I've been asking. Is like, what's my role? I don't sit under a tree and meditate. I do go walking around the desert, Master OneFeather.
But if you are connected, there will no longer be a mystery as to what your role is, because that inner union will create the inner voice that says, get on your ass or get off your ass, and go to the oasis and
there you go.
The water, whatever it is.
That is what's
like you're saying. It's synonymous with relationship. Synonymous as in whatever whatever practice you're utilizing to know yourself at the deepest depths. That at the same time you then walk into circumstances. The circumstances find you, where you can express that and make that particular contribution to the world that's aligned with whatever our point of clarity is currently at.
Absolutely, yes.
Happening at the same time.
In this reality, Everybody in this reality is exactly where they are supposed to be doing exactly what they are supposed to be doing. And if you're at the spearhead of a revolution, that's fine. That's what you're supposed to be doing in order to get the next step taken. Because it is all a series of steps, you know. In this, as long as we're hooked into a timeline, it's always a journey. There's always another step that is going to unfold.
Don't disagree with that. Yes, yeah, come on, and this is a good time to introduce. Hi, Dwayne. You're live from Austin, Texas, and yeah, step in. What are your thoughts?
Okay, so this line right down the middle is balance. Okay, over here is identifying with society. Over here is identifying with the depth of yourself. And as life goes on, we start off with society, we go way over to the identifying of self, all the way to isolation, and we come back into society, and then back to that way, and eventually
it's true.
We find that balance.
Yeah, there's your equation, your pie, right?
Yeah. Start off with society, go into self-discovery, all the way to the point of isolation, then come back, and eventually, when we find our path, we'll just kind of hover right there on balance between ourselves and other people.
So, Dwayne, where am I in that chart? Where do I stand? Like, where do you stand when your neighbor is swinging back and forth, nearly knocking you in the face?
Okay.
What do you do?
So balance is being somewhere along this line, right?
Right.
If your balance is like right there all the time, then that's your balance. But if your balance is this all the time, then that is your balance, going from the ethereal into the physical. In my opinion, Christopher, you're all over the place all the time so much that you are balanced.
Well, yeah, that's what I hope the gravestone will say, that at the end of the day, he ended up, it all worked out.
Yeah.
I'm hoping. That's so good. And actually, this is a good time to introduce you, sir. You are a client, a watcher, and also an author of a book called The Science of Rain. And yeah, there it is. Great. I'll have to click to us. So tell me what this raised an eyebrow in your reading. I was super curious. Tell us what you have set out here, and I'll tell people how they can get this. We'll have how to get a copy of the book in our programming. But what is The Science of Rain, sir? Is this a witch doctor revealing the truth?
The Science of the Rain is the title of my book. Now, another title that would be just as good is The Science of the Drought, or Why Do We Have a Drought, or What Causes the Drought and How to Get Rid of It. Because in all honesty, the phrase The Science of Rain is just to catch the attention, because the truth is, this book will not tell you how to make it rain. It will only tell you how to get rid of what's causing the drought.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
So it's drought elimination versus rain creation.
Yes.
That's very interesting.
The actual science of rain includes evaporating moisture from the ocean, it going up into the sky, over the land, turning from humidity into clouds, and then raining. That's the basics behind the science. It's a chain link process. Now, electricity has broken the chain link, which turns humidity into clouds. In order for humidity to turn to clouds, the sky has to be negatively ionized. As we produce electricity, we fill the sky with positive electrons that inhibits the hydrogen bond of the water molecules, which is a negative electrostatic charge, and the humidity will not turn into clouds. So The Science of Rain, the book, tells you how to get rid of free-floating electrons and induce negative ionization.
Fascinating. I love it. So, so the idea here is that desertification, which is a big issue too, that the deserts are growing.
Desertization.
Is that what it is? Okay. Is really a result of us using electricity basically in the wrong way. We're putting out too many positive ions.
Positive electrons, and we never intended that. That is a residual effect of our alternating current generators.
Oh, really? So Tesla was wrong. The AC isn't good for us.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. Yeah, say Tesla was wrong. Sorry, Tesla.
It was an unexpected residual effect because when we produce electrons, the majority of the electrons go into the grid to power our cities, but some of the electrons float around in the room. Those are called free-floating electrons. And if you've got an electron right here, you cannot have water and air particle right there. So as we fill up the cities with electrons, we get this sky of positive electrons in the atmosphere, and it's like a boulder inside of a river. So not only do the free-floating electrons take up space where air and moisture should be, they also rid the sky of negative ionization, so humidity cannot turn into clouds. There's two parts to it. Electrons take up space, and they rid the atmosphere of negative ionization.
So we need like big magnets? Is there a theory? Have you thought about it?
There are several techniques to take care of the problem and neutralize it. The most effective technique is a device that I developed called the grounder. And on my YouTube channel, Orgonite Austin, you can find 2 videos on the grounder.
Cool.
And
we'll share those on Instagram.
Yeah, that is a device that grounds out free-floating electrons and makes room in the sky for stuff to happen. The grounder consists of steel galvanized fence posts, 20 of them. They're all connected to a copper wire. That copper wire is connected to a bucket of water, and that bucket of water is constantly being replenished because the water will hold the positive charge, pull it out of the sky, and make room. So the grounder is one of the most influential methods I've seen to clean the skies, get rid of the dirty skies, make room for natural weather patterns.
So anyone answer here. Is there anything in nature that does this for us on Earth? That's grounding our positive electrons?
Okay, lightning.
Yeah, I would say a good example would probably be with the salt caves and the salt crystals, because they're negative ion generators, are they not? The Himalaya salt lamps. I would imagine that using, I know I have my salt lamps that I use around the house, and I do feel that it does have a tendency to remove a lot of crap from the air, including the over-positive accumulation that are like little dust bunnies floating around us.
It's like male digital sperm all over the ionosphere.
Yes.
Once again, the Mars male energy has has overspread its seed. The negative ions, the chicks, are way outnumbered. It's a sausage fest on Earth. That's the problem. That's always been the problem since, last 2,000 years. Unfortunately, we need more negatives. We need more chicks.
But what is your sign? Because boy, I'm getting a lot of air around you. So Gemini, Aquarius energy.
I'm a Leo.
You're a Leo. And
Yes,
what's your ascendant?
I think Virgo? I could be wrong.
We can look that up for you.
Yeah, well,
I'll look it up for you. I have them on fire.
Of course, Christopher, you're also aware of this, because we've had discussions about this since I introduced the idea to you, is that if your sun is in Leo, your Earth is in Aquarius, and that's where I'm picking up that strong Aquarian vibe around Lynn, because he definitely is a futuristic thinker. He likes to think in terms of unifying the collective. I mean, he has a lot of Aquarian personality traits, and he is also somebody who likes playing around with his mind. So that's Mr. Aquarius side of Mr. Leo guy.
Well, you're very good. What I'm waiting for his chart to come up because my internet is back and forth 100 times right now. But he's got a very high, powerful Leo energy in the 11th house of society.
Oh, okay. So that's again reinforcing the Aquarian vibe.
Yeah, totally. So he's he's a Leo that wants to show off himself actually in the world, which happens.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
as long as
he's
you don't
like
take yourself seriously.
Well, no, I mean he's like
when
the stuff
you
he
can
loves.
take 2 steps back and laugh at yourself, then you're all right.
Well, he loves rain and he loves the science of it. So it turns out to be very good for mankind. I think that's true for everyone following what their heart's desire. So very interesting topic. I would put out the link for how people can get your book. It sounds super fascinating, but are there some practical, just to wrap up, positive ions bouncing off? Do you have some practical suggestions for people in their house? I mean, I have to agree with Master OneFeather. The salt lamp, I keep it on 24/7. It just feels good.
With
I
a
don't think
salt
the salt
lamp,
lamp needs to be on to actually do the job. I think it's just the presence of the salt lamp itself. Right? Am I right?
Probably true. No, it needs the light. Oh, tell us, Dwayne. Tell us.
You definitely need to have the light bulb heating it up. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Actually, it's the heat does not do it. One thing that's really trippy is take your salt lamp and take it away from that little 2-watt light bulb and put it on a what are those lava lamp lights? Put your salt lamp on a lava lamp light, and you can feel the heat from the ions coming off of the rock, and the rock is still cold. The more intense full spectrum light you put through there, the more you're going to get out of it.
That's cool. I'm gonna put like a fucking laser beam on that thing later.
The laser beams don't have a wide spectrum.
Oh damn it! Well, we'll try something. I'm
Well,
gonna add some more salt.
Duane, you got to tell us about orgonite here. I'm very familiar with it, big
good
fan of some things that were going on back in the 1920s and 1900, turn of the century, in the New England region where a bunch of rocks were blackened. So tell me what you know about orgonite.
Okay. First thing I would say to anybody and everybody is how to pick the piece of orgonite that you like the most, or a piece that's good for you, or a piece that's good. There's so much disinformation out there on the web about orgonite. The way you choose your orgonite is when you see it, does it put you in awe? When you feel it, does it feel good? If your brain is calculating on what's going to be the best piece, you're not going to get the best piece for you. So find a piece that when you look at it, it makes you feel like you're staring into nature, because these things radiate energy, the presence of the individual that made it, the presence of the time. When you pick your piece of orgonite, make sure you enjoy looking at it. That is the best way to find a piece of orgonite.
But what does it do? Let's back up 1 second for those who know nothing.
Okay. Orgonite is a man-made mixture of minerals that consist of plastic, metal, and quartz. That's the basics of it. There's 2 parts to it, the plastic and metal, and then the plastic and quartz. The plastic and quartz part. Now, when we make orgonite, it starts off as a liquid with rocks and liquid plastic. As that plastic solidifies and hardens, it shrinks and squeezes the crystal. That squeeze on the crystal is called piezoelectricity. It's just like your grill lighters that go click and you see a spark, or the lighters you go click and you see a spark. That's piezoelectric activity. When some minerals get squeezed, they emit a charge. So the plastic around the quartz has shrank and is holding the squeeze on the quartz. So the electromagnetic part, the non-physical part of the quartz the charge is being sustained outward. So the frequency of that charge, and within that field is the proper frequency for the human body's electrical system to run off of, which is 13 terahertz. Anyway, when plastics...
So this is a man-made, manufactured substance using plastic and crystals deliberately in order to squeeze down the crystals for a charge. And it just always, when you squeeze it, it vibrates at the human vibration, or we figured out exactly how much to squeeze it for the human vibration?
Quartz crystal specifically does that.
Quartz equals human, got it. Okay, cool.
Little
That
quick
makes
question.
sense.
I have this little orgonite cell phone protecting thingy that was advertised as EMF protection, and someone actually told me whenever you put things like this on a device like a phone that's receiving wireless signals, that the phone actually has to work harder to receive the signal, then you actually get zapped even more. Do you know anything, Duane, about like the actual practicality or any advantage at all to using devices like this on something that emits EMFs or receives signals?
Okay, let me tell you what I know, let me tell you what I don't know, let me tell you what I've seen. I have never seen an example where orgonite inhibits the transfer of a signal. What I have seen numerous times is when somebody has a lifestyle of carrying a cell phone and then they carry a piece of orgonite, the ailments that come from carrying a cell phone disappear. So I don't see how orgonite inhibits the signal transfer, but I do see how orgonite kind of like overpowers the EMF, the electromagnetic field of the cell phone.
It dilutes it.
So yeah, I could say that's a very accurate way to put it. It dilutes it. Yeah.
So would you say it is beneficial to have one strapped into the phone?
Yes, if not on your person, on your necklace, in your pocket, yes.
Well, and you create necklaces, don't you, sir?
Yes, I sure do.
I know. I'm wearing one right here. He was kind enough to send me one. Tell me how this works. I've been wearing mine for a long time. I had no idea until I read this guy that this is the client that sent me this necklace, which I love. So what does the necklace do? We'll tell you guys how to buy them, but you make these by yourself with Organite, correct?
Yes.
And what is the design of it? What are they designed to do?
If I were talking to a real spiritualist as opposed to a scientist, I would tell the spiritualist that it emits healthy chi and it protects your body from electricity. If I were talking to a scientist, I would say it sustains a field of healthy electromagnetics that is the proper frequency of your human electrical system so that your body is not interrupted by electronics. That's what it does. What happens from using it. So check this out.
Yes.
When your body's not interrupted by electrical signals, your body's electrical signals communicate uninhibitedly. Therefore, your body does not have to work harder to transfer signals. You are less stressed. You think calmer and clearer. You sleep better. You need less sleep from spending a lot of time with these. And it's like putting zip into your step.
So prescribe it for me. So do I have to wear this 24/7 in the shower when making love? How many days before I'm going to feel the zip in my step? What's the prescription, doctor? And what do I look for as a change of a feel? Like, what are the positive symptoms?
I gotcha. Before I tell you that, let me tell you this. After somebody spends 3 or 4 weeks with a piece of Organite, get rid of it.
Oh, really?
Then notice the symptoms of electricity coming back. Okay, that's the
There's your science. There's your science. Okay, that makes sense. All right. Yeah.
The truth is, when your body's not interrupted by electronics, electricity flows more simple. Your thoughts are calmer. You sleep better. You're not rushed. It's close to going camping.
I was just gonna say, it sounds like going out in nature to me.
Yeah.
Cool. I've heard accounts of what's similar to what you're describing from many items that are products that are out in the market, and I'm curious where your information comes from. Is it from people who use your devices and then give you direct feedback that this is in fact what I have felt? How do you determine how did you get the information that you arrived at?
Feedback and experience.
Thank you.
There you go. You know, it's
well,
like
and,
one of those
and
things.
it's
Like,
obvious, Dewan, you are very much entrenched in science, so you started off with some kind of scientific postulation here where you're connecting dots. Out of curiosity, are you familiar where the true orgone phenomenon comes from and what was going on with that back 120 years ago?
Oh, yeah, we're back to OneFeather's question.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Wilhelm Reich, and his name is commonly pronounced Reich, but it's actually pronounced Reich. Dr. Wilhelm Reich discovered orgone energy, and through the study, the stuff orgonite was discovered from Carl Hans Wells, a German scientist. So he's the one that put it into orgonite. Dr. Wilhelm Reich is the one who discovered it.
And have you ever tried to build an orgone generator?
No, and I honestly
ever seen a grown man naked? No, that's just not on that level. Go ahead.
Well, no, Reich actually did build an orgone generator, and when he essentially turned it on, there was an incident that freaked out everybody on the East Coast, especially those people in D.C., and that's why they carried the man kicking and screaming off to an asylum and kept him contained for the rest of his existence. But he was a very profound soul, a very brilliant man who contributed an amazing series of ideas, an amazing series of actual factual phenomenon to humanity, and unfortunately the U.S. government suppressed all of it.
So what exactly happened to people up and down the East Coast, Master OneFeather?
What was the event that caused that?
He put together an orgone collector and I guess powered it up, and it's an all organic process. There are these platelets of organic material, and he put the whole thing together, and when he put it in gear, I guess you could say, for lack of a better word of describing the event. It released an energy burst that blackened rocks for, I think it was something like 10 or 13 miles around the actual epicenter on the side facing the orgone collector. So essentially, if you stood, in the center and went out 13 miles in a diameter, you would see all the rocks had been blackened as they were facing in. And I believe this happened in New Jersey, but it was very much suppressed. I got wind of this information from some papers that I got my hands on back in the 60s when I was, in fact, in school. And I was studying psychology at the time, and I had a brilliant teacher who said, "Oh, take a look at this guy." And because, again, Reich had done some work with tribal consciousness, and he had done some essays on the Trobriand Islanders, among others. It's a fascinating read, but most of his stuff was suppressed or vanished, and you really have to struggle to get your hands on some of the material that describes some of his actual experiments.
So other than black rocks, people didn't run for the hills, start making love randomly?
People did notice an actual physical, I guess this blast actually, as Dewen was describing here, I think it actually, in fact, penetrated a lot of this electromagnetic resistance field that we're carrying around with us as a result of having all of these generators in place in all the cities. And I think back in that era, it was probably really starting to amp up. And all of a sudden, people felt like something fell away, like the shell was broken off. The husk on the seed was eliminated, and they were back to their original self for a while. I think after 3 weeks or a month, it was already a forgotten event, but the government definitely was not happy with that whole adventure.
So everyone basically had like a spiritual orgasm and was just like,
Again, I don't know if
all the rocks were black.
so much spiritual, but I think everybody felt a hell of a lot better for a brief period of time.
The government's like, oh, we can't have that happen. Go ahead.
I have a thesis on why that is. I have not heard of that, but what I see with the orgone accumulators is that they compress orgone into a container. I'm theorizing that the compression got so strong that it went out.
Yeah, it basically was like it reached that point where
Critical mass.
Yeah, you had almost like a nuclear device being set off, but it was on a whole different level, a much more subtle level, a much more positive level.
Let me tell you the difference between orgone accumulators and orgonite nowadays. The orgone accumulator simply pulled the healthy orgone and pushed it into an area. As opposed to orgonite, it gets rid of the deadly orgone, which I don't believe in, and transmutes it into positive orgone. So instead of the accumulators that gather, orgonite just constantly transmutes. It's like a trickle effect.
And from what I've heard, I mean, what are the practical applications of this particular substance? I heard that people are looking at building communities out of it, homes and things like that. Is that true?
Well, orgonite is no different than what we use to build the pyramids. It's no to build houses in that aspect. Anything you use is going to contour energy to move uniquely. Now, if you've got something that makes energy and you make it out of orgonite, then wow, you're just going the extra step.
Interesting. And what would and this last question, like, if the world wasn't charged with a bunch of positive ions, would we need, or would orgonite serve much of a purpose?
I don't think so. I don't
really?
think so.
It's an interesting condition of what we've done with Earth. Okay.
Yes. Check this out. In my book.
Both Doan, then Master One.
So, in the 1930s, when Tesla gave us the ability to run electricity out to suburban areas, lightning in Northern America tripled when we were able to produce a lot of electricity. And lightning has not increased beyond that point since that decade, since the 1930s. Why did it increase? Because we produce more electrons. Why did it not increase beyond that? Because the atmosphere cannot ground out anymore. So now we're getting stagnation of electromagnetic smog, free-floating electrons. And yeah, if we didn't have electricity, I don't think we would need orgonite or EMF protection.
Master One, what were you going to say, sir?
Well, this one is just a little insight I want to share intuitively with Dewen. When you're contemplating different avenues to take with this, I think you should play around with the idea of incorporating an organic housing for your orgonite items that you're creating, and perhaps it might be good to do some research on hemp and some of the properties of hemp, because I have a feeling that somehow you could marry those two elements and you could come up with something that would really have a profound impact on building over the next 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 years.
You mean like an organite bong, Master OneFeather?
No, not at all. Because hemp, all marijuana is hemp, but not all hemp is marijuana.
True.
And so I'm talking about sustainable and renewable hemp resources in the sense of materials for building.
The organic portion of it, yes. If you're going to waste organic material, hemp grows really friendly and affordably to Mother Earth. Yeah.
But it also has some other unique properties a lot of people are not fully plugged into yet. And my sense of it is that Mr. Gardner here will be clever enough to figure out what those other elements are that people are perhaps overlooking that are right in front of them.
Dirt.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of it, but there's something else there too. So play around with it and shoot me an email. I just friended you on Facebook. I'll be interested in seeing what your next step is.
If you guys want to know more about Dewen's book, it's called The Science of Rain, and this is the website. You can go to thescienceofrain.com. It'll bounce you right there. Is that right? And yeah, scienceofrain.com, exactly. And you can read more about it. And we thank you. This is actually all we have for our time, folks. We've gone through an hour. Joel, thank you for popping in. Will you join us next week with debate?
Probably.
Okay, good. I hope so. And Dewen, you're always welcome. I'm sure we'll see you again. We're going to talk about. We'll have in the how to get one of these. And Master Heather, as always, thank you for piping in your wisdom, sir. And you must have had an organite intuition there, didn't you?
I did, in fact. I got kind of a series of mind pictures. So. I'll be interested in seeing what comes out of that. But my instinct is that we're right in that breakthrough period right now. A lot of people are feeling like they're getting amped up, and they don't know where it's going, but they're feeling a rise in the vibration, a rise in their consciousness. Something is breaking free. And within that mix, I think that stuff is getting ready to unfold. It's going to be kind of fun to ride on that surfboard.
We definitely have some, I think, mind-blowing realities coming up here in the next few weeks, and this was an example because we were planning on bringing up this necklace, so you kind of tuned into it magically there on the air. If anyone wants to ever join the conversation with us, by the way, be very clear about how you can do that. Come to tweettalk.tv, tweettalk.tv. It'll take you to our site. You'll be able to watch whatever is live. On the right side of the screen is a chat room, and we always post a link to join in the chat room. Also, if you'd like to come on the show and promote something that you are doing, like your book or your theories about electricity, there is a Contact Us page on soulgarden.tv. Just contact us, reach out, we'll get back to you, and we'll invite you on. We're always happy to have everyone here. Gentlemen, have a great week in your Circle of Wisdom. Thank you so much for the time. And we'll see everybody next week at the same place. Until then, live, love, be.